Zoea is an AI that lets anyone produce software without having to learn a complicated programming language. Instead, the user defines the program they want, as a set of test cases, comprising input and output values. Zoea uses AI to generate the required code, automatically, from the test cases. Zoea Visual is a simple visual programming language, built on top of the text-based Zoea specification language. Zoea Visual enables users to define Zoea test cases with a simple graphical notation. It also extends the core Zoea language with a number of new concepts. These include dependencies, which allow the user to describe the data flow within test cases, and subsidiary test cases, which make it easier to specify larger and more complex programs. All data in Zoea Visual is represented graphically. This includes labels, for input and output user interfaces, and comments. Labels and comments are otherwise ignored by the Zoea compiler. Single values such as strings and numbers are represented by an input field. Values can contain one or more lines of text, and they grow and shrink automatically to fit their contents. Values can also be empty. Lists are represented by one or more input fields, arranged in a single column and surrounded by a margin. All elements in Zoea Visual can be selected by the user. The margin allows a whole list to be selected, as well as any particular list member. Two-dimensional arrays are represented as a table. Table rows can be selected using the boxes at each end. Hashmaps, or objects, provide a list of named values. Lists, tables and hashmaps can also be combined to form more complex data structures. Dependencies in Zoea Visual are used to indicate that one value is used in some way to produce another value. They are shown as a colored triangle, or polygon, that connects the source and target elements. Source elements are always on the left, and target elements are on the right of dependencies. Dependencies that target a single value are displayed as a triangle, whereas those that target a composite element, such as a list or table row, cover the left-hand side of their target element. This helps to avoid any confusion over which element, or group of elements, is the target. In order to define test cases, elements in Zoea Visual are placed in named columns. The column names correspond to the tag names in Zoea specification language. We can have any number of derived columns in each test case. The data column can be hidden if it is not used. The input and output columns are always displayed. In Zoea Visual, each data element that is the target of a set of dependencies corresponds to a fragment of the solution code. The same set of elements and dependencies may occur on multiple case diagrams for the same program. Taken together, the source and target element values are treated by Zoea as a test case. The user defines a program using Zoea Visual by assembling data elements and dependencies within columns, to create one or more test case diagrams. Any number of data elements can be placed in any column. Elements can also be moved up and down within columns, to improve the layout of the diagram. Once the user has completed the diagram for the first case, the whole diagram can be cloned to create additional cases. When a diagram is cloned, all of the data elements and dependencies are copied. Reference data values are also copied, but values for elements in other columns are created empty. Zoea Visual also provides the ability to create subsidiary test cases. A subsidiary test case corresponds to a set of one or more dependencies, with the same target element. They are used to express complex logic, without having to create large numbers of test case diagrams. A subsidiary test case is a separate test case that is linked to an element in a Zoea Visual diagram. This other test case has the same number of dependencies, and the same data types, as the original element, but it can have any number of test cases, and it can use completely different data values. When an element has a subsidiary test case, the code for that element is produced by the subsidiary and not by the case diagram. Elements with subsidiary test cases are marked with a blue dot. Any diagram can have any number of subsidiary test cases, and these can form a hierarchy. The Zoea Visual User Interface provides facilities to create, edit, compile and run programs. Case diagrams are created and edited with the case editor. The case editor provides tools that allow data elements to be created and modified within columns. Data elements can also be resized as required. Other tabs allow reference data and composition relationships between programs to be defined. When a Zoea visual program is compiled, the color of the data elements and dependencies change from red to green, to indicate that compilation has been successful. Visit zoea.co.uk for more information on Zoea, or follow us on Twitter.